being unstoppable doesn't mean that everything is easy peasy lemon breezy all the time, right? There are going to be challenges. One of the things I get asked again and again and again is what led to your success? How did you go from making 138K a year to making 700K in 1 year? That's a 5 times increase in your income. And how did you do that again and again and again? Not always doing a 5 times increase, but, crossing the 7-figure mark and then going beyond that and multiples of that. So this is a big question, and it's not a one single thing. There are key elements that I think are involved, and it's exactly what I teach my clients. And I want to give you an overview today because there are things that you can control, actions and habits that you can control, that you can make part of who you're being that will actually lead to success, that successful people do as part of who they are in the world. And many of these things I was already doing, but I needed to step it up to a new level. So listen for that for yourself. And many of these things I had to work on and improve and build into my daily DNA, if you will, the way I was showing up. And they weren't how I was showing up previously. I had to learn them. And they were new skill sets for me. And that's something that I encourage you to pay attention to as well. You need to do both. You need to up your game and you need to actually learn new things, learn new ways of being, because successful people, meaning, and in this case, I'm talking about both successful in your business, in your income, right? Most of the women who are listening to this podcast are running their own business. They're a small business owner. They're an entrepreneur. They're a professional, and they would like to make more money and be less overwhelmed, be less monkey on your back. There's a methodology to that. There's a way of doing that. And people who do it differently than the way you're doing it. And I know that because the way I was doing it wasn't really working. It was getting me to a certain place in my business, right? It wasn't for naught. I wasn't starving. But it wasn't getting me to that lit up, delightful life where I was making money and also having the other things in my life that I really, really desired, like good health and good relationships and friendships and things like that. So keep that in mind. Success, when I use success, I mean both things, but I do give primacy to the income, because if you're not making money, you are always going to feel trapped and not having the freedom that you want, because money touches so many things in your life. You'll be trapped in your relationships, like not being able to sort of stand up for what you want or ask for what you want if you're not bringing in your own money, right? Even small things like what restaurant you go to is touched by money. What you order at the restaurant. Do you read the prices on the right before you choose what you want? Right? I used to do that for sure. So we'll do a whole nother episode on how money touches everything. Because that's a big, big, big conversation. But I want you to know that I do take a stance that you need to change your money story first, give it primacy. And that doesn't mean you're not working on the other things at the same time. So you do need to do both concurrently, not everything concurrently, but you can't neglect the rest of your life, but you do need to give primacy to changing who you're being in relationship to money making, if that's a real goal for you. It's not a real goal for everyone, but if it's a real goal for you, it's something important to think about. Okay. So what are the actions and habits that you can control that lead to success? The first one, which if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, it won't come as a surprise. You need goals. And that's your GPS. That's where you're going. That leads you, points you in the right direction. That focuses your mind. It creates that kind of focus and keeps you from being scattered and going in 1,000 different directions. If you think about going in 1,000 different directions, you can do a lot and go in a bunch of different circles without actually getting very far towards your goal or towards what you really want. And There's so much to goal achievement, and I really laid this out fundamentally. It's part of our 3-day teaching at the Income Breakthrough Summit that we do. So if you're interested in that, please check that out in the show notes. The URL is theunstoppablewoman.com/summit. Okay. So check that out. But you need a goal. It needs to be a stretch goal. And that means that it has to have some real juice behind it. You have to really want what you're saying you want. It can't be reasonable, can't be someone else's desire. It has to be a true desire. And that helps you know where you're going. So if you don't have a clear goal, I want you to stop right now and recognize that something is stopping you from really owning your true desires. And that's going to keep you from having the success that you want. And just have that level of awareness. But if you want to make a certain amount of money, you want to make 6 figures, you want to make 7 figures, you want a certain kind of relationship, you want a certain kind of body, right? That's a goal. Own it. Even if you're looking at the outside world and saying, that can't happen for me, I'm going to tell you that this is a key aspect and what differentiates successful people from unsuccessful people, meaning successful people actually claim their goals. Okay. Even if they don't know how they're going to do it or if it's possible, maybe no one else has done that before, but chances are your goal is something that someone else has done. And it's not like, inventing electricity or inventing the airplane or something like that. Right. You probably want to make a certain amount of money and there are other people who've done that. So there's a way there's a path there for you. So claim it. Okay. The next thing that you're going to want to do that is within your control is to keep this top of mind. Keep your goal top of mind. What I see a lot is you claim a goal and then you get distracted by life and it goes out of sight, out of mind. And you're like, why didn't I achieve my goal? Well, you have a lot of thoughts in a day. If you don't keep your goals clearly set front and center in your life, they can't stay the burning desire for you. They can't stay super present. And your brain is set to find out how to create what you want. But if you change your focus all the time, your brain doesn't know that that's really truly what you want, and it goes off in a million different directions. So you get scattered and splattered. So you want to keep it top of mind. And this is something that I teach my clients exactly how to do. Okay. But for right now, just figure it out, write it down, put it on a Post-it note, stick it in front of you, look at it every day, fall in love with that. Okay. The next thing, which is a total habit that you have to create, is to take consistent action. There's lots of different types of action that you can take, massive, immediate, but fundamentally you have to take consistent action. If you are doing your business in fits and starts, if you don't know what the needle moving action is and you can't take consistent action on that, you're also going to be stymied. So successful people who achieve their goals successfully control what they're doing, what actions they're taking, what actions they're giving priority to, and take consistent action. Okay. And this requires, number 4, keeping your word to yourself. This is discipline, guys. This is discipline. Do you say you're going to do something and then change your mind and do something else? I just did a podcast on productive procrastination, and we'll put that link in the show notes, but that's a real thing for you to look at. How much of that are you doing? And are you breaking your word to yourself? This lowers your self-trust and lowers your ability to keep your future commitments, because you've already broken the trust with yourself so many times that you don't believe yourself anymore. So successful people are disciplined. They keep their word to themselves. Now, a little nuance here. Too many commitments and you're going to not be able to keep your word to yourself. You're going to crash and burn. And that is playing out an old self-image of someone who is not successful, someone who is not someone who is trustworthy with herself, who keeps her word to herself, who does what she says she's going to do. And it lowers your self-worth. It lowers how worthy you see yourself. And it's a pattern, you guys. It keeps you stuck at the same level. So if that is you, and it used to be me, okay, I would do a lot of things well, but there were certain things that I said I would do and I didn't do, and I didn't do consistently. And so now I'm not perfect. I have a long list every single day of the things that I want to get done in my life and my business. And not all of them get done. Trust me. I have the entrepreneur's mind, 1,000 things that I want to get done. And yet I know what the most important things are, and I do those, and I keep my word to myself, and I don't go to sleep unless I've actually done them. So this is discipline. Okay. And there are places in my life where I really had to learn this. And quite frankly, I'm still learning it, right? I can be very disciplined in my business. And the places that I have challenge being disciplined are if I get out of the practice, get out of the habit of it, my exercise routine. So for a while I was a runner and I ran every day, and that felt great. And then when I stopped doing that, I fell out of it. It didn't just happen to me. I made a choice, and I made a choice the next day, and I made a choice the next day. That was me losing the commitment, losing my word to myself, breaking my word to myself. So that's an area where I'm more challenged. And you might have that too. You might have it in reverse, where you're very disciplined in another area of your life, like in your eating or your fitness, but you're not very disciplined in your business, or you're disciplined in how you show up as a mother or a partner, but you're not disciplined in how you show up in your business. So if you really want your income, you have to learn this new level of discipline. And that's what I had to learn when I was going after a big goal like running a marathon. I had to learn how to be disciplined with my exercise. So keep that in mind. Okay. So the fifth thing that successful people do that is an action or habit that you can control is really who is in your life. Okay. Deciding who you spend the most time with. There's an adage out there that you are the result of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Who are you spending the most time with? Are they other entrepreneurs and other successful women in business? Are they other women in business who have big dreams? Maybe they're not yet successful, but they're driven. They've started. They want to go for it. They have a growth mindset, right? Are you surrounding yourself with people like that? That's a big deal, because if you're not, then you're surrounded by people who aren't really going for it. And so, you look great in comparison to them. But if you compare yourself, which I do all the time, I put myself as the small fish in the big pond. I put myself in situations where I am challenged so that I am always raising my game. This is super important. Who else do you surround yourself with? Do you have mentors? Do you have team? Okay. Are the people on your team, are they can-do people? Do they have a world-class attitude and work ethic and standard of work? Right? Who are you surrounding yourself with? Are they loyal? Are they honest? Are they committed? Okay. Friends, family, all of that's important. Some people have great friends and family. Some people have semi or full on toxic friends and family. And it's up to you. You have control here on whether you spend time with those people or not. Okay. So that's a real big thing. The next piece is the idea of going the extra mile. This is so critical. It relates to the law of compensation, which speaks about the kind of value that you provide the world. Okay. Successful people provide more value, and they do that. They're constantly iterating and constantly upping their game by adding more value, seeing where they can add more value, going the extra mile. Okay. Being world class in what they are doing. Going for excellence. Now, don't be confused here. This isn't about perfectionism. There is a discernment piece in terms of when you have to pay attention to something because it will hurt your brand otherwise, and when you can let that piece go. But you want to have an attitude and the action and make that part of who you're being, to really have a world-class standard for yourself. And if there's any place where you are falling short on that, just own it and figure out what you can do to up your game there and make a commitment and then keep your word to yourself, right? There's the discipline. Okay. Number 7 is focus. Focus is so key. Now, what I see a lot is that people get very splattered and focused on a bunch of different things, and they can't really move the needle and get the big things done in their business. Or they think that they only need to focus on one little sliver, and everything else falls apart. So there is this nice middle ground where you have 1, 2, maybe 3 big projects that you're working on. And for me, I can handle about 3, sometimes 4 big projects that I'm working on. And so 2 or 3 of them are in the back of my head, and I'm playing out, there's some cogitation that's happening with them as I do one, and I move this one forward, and then I start on another one. But they're in order for me of priority, but sometimes I want to shift my attention. But if I have 15 or even 5, I start going into a panic that everything has to be done now, and I can't get it all done, and it shuts me down. And I know this is the case with many people, that I am not alone in this. Many of my clients have talked to me about this. So focus is key. Now, sometimes I will, and I would suggest this if you're just getting started with this concept, is focus on one thing for 1 to 2 weeks at a time. Now, this won't be the only thing you get done. It's an 80-20 rule here. 80% of your time focused on this, 20% of your time focused on everything else in your business. Okay. And if you need to adjust those percentages, don't hang on my every word on this. You can make it 50-50. Okay. If you need to, your business best. But the idea here is that you're not doing a gazillion different projects at once. The other thing is on the daily, the little things, you need to know what you're focused on for the day. What's your win going to be for the day? What are the top 3 things that you need to get done today? Okay. And focus on those. Make sure that gets your attention first. And if you're having trouble with that, you need to learn how to work through that. Okay. Because it's such a key contributor to success. And generally speaking, people aren't working through that because they have, it's not safe for them to do that. They have old programming and old image of how they need to show up in the world and what's going to happen if they don't, if they show up differently, if they prioritize the things that are really going to move their business forward. That's going to be, it doesn't feel safe to them, so they don't do it, and they self-sabotage on that. So you do want to work to narrow your focus so you're not so splattered. Otherwise, you're going to be going in circles. Okay. The next thing is really looking at changing your beliefs to be success oriented. Okay. To lead to success. This was fascinating. I just heard this. Now, I haven't gone and looked up the study, so I can't point to that yet. But that many people said that they would not change their beliefs given evidence that they were wrong, okay, that their beliefs were inaccurate. Even if they saw evidence of that, they wouldn't change their beliefs. I found that fascinating. And I will tell you, successful people look at their goal and, barring being unethical or doing something illegal, right, and dishonest, they are looking at their goal and they're evaluating their beliefs and seeing if those beliefs lead to the success that they want. And you can do this too. What are the results that you want, and what beliefs would lead you to that? It's not a complicated formula, but most people, 1, won't spend the time to do it. And 2, it's challenging because you're in the weeds on it. You're in the forest for the trees, right? You cannot see the beliefs as beliefs. You see them as the way the world works and the truth of how everything is. And that's where working with a mentor and surrounding yourself with people who are working at a higher level or have a growth mindset and can, maybe they're at the same level as you, but they can bring a different perspective, learning the universal laws. That was a game changer for me. When I learned the universal laws, then I recognized how my beliefs were not in support of the results I wanted. I was working with the wrong game plan. And so that was super, super huge. And it's something that you can learn. Therefore, it's under your control. Okay. The other thing that you really want to understand here is that changing your beliefs is a process, okay? And it's one of the things I teach my clients. And you have to also change. One of the key beliefs that you need to change is who you are, who you believe you are. This is your self-image. And that is your identity. And your identity is the governor, meaning it's going to tell you what you can and cannot do in life, what you can and cannot achieve in life, what you can or cannot have, be, receive, do, all of that. So it's super important that you look at your identity and your self-image and really, really look at changing that. Okay. So the next thing, number 9, is learning how to learn. You know, successful people have learned how to learn. They have skill acquisition as one of the things they know is super important to success. Now, they're not acquiring all the skills now, and they're not doing, generally speaking, certificates or big education programs. Occasionally, if you're a brain scientist, you know, a neuroscientist, that is what you need to do. But if you are an entrepreneur, there are skills that you need to acquire that don't come from that level of certification. Okay, that process, that old school education process. They come from iteration, right? Learning something and iterating on it, getting better and better at it. Successful entrepreneurs learn from others. They fast track it by hiring experts. Okay, teach me what you know. I want to learn from you. I want to fast track this. They learn from asking the right people the right questions. So if you want to make money, don't ask your uncle who never made more than 30K a year. Ask someone who's actually done what you want to do. Okay. And they learn new skills through, you know, YouTube. They are self-starters. They go for more. They're not waiting for life to give them that. They're like, oh, I need to do this next in my business. How do I do that? How would I figure that out? And they go and take initiative. Initiative is a super big thing. Problem solving, initiative, having a growth mindset, all of that, which leads us to number 10, which is this idea of being persistent in pursuit of your goals. This is when I say being an unstoppable woman, this is such a key aspect of it. You know, being persistent or being unstoppable doesn't mean that everything is easy peasy lemon breezy all the time, right? There are going to be challenges. There are going to be things that cause you frustration, irritation, fear, pain, all of those sorts of things. And you have to figure out how to stay persistent even when you are thrown a curveball. And you need to know how to move through it. And sometimes that curveball is simply distraction. Sometimes it's the challenges of growing a business, you know, team quitting, not making payroll, sales going through the floor, right? Like all sorts of things happen that you need to figure out how to roll with. Okay. That's part of being unstoppable and being persistent. But it's also figuring out how to have a growth mindset and always be learning and always be problem solving, right? Like not looking at the thing that's right in front of you and saying, okay, I quit, or, oh, that's too big for me, or, oh, I need to go into my hidey hole. It's really knowing how to move through the various terror barriers that come up with having that problem solving. This is just a problem that needs to be solved, and growth mindset. Okay. So those are 10 things, 10 key attributes of what it takes to be successful. These are the actions and the habits that you can control to be successful, that lead to success. Now, is this a comprehensive list? Absolutely not. Okay. But let's call this my top 10 for now list. Okay. So know that there's so much more to success, but if you start practicing these, if you took one of these at a time to really execute on and like practice, okay, am I doing this? And get inquisitive and curious with yourself. That's also a key attribute. In fact, this is super, super important. The level of honesty that you bring to the process of running your business, how you're showing up, how you self-assess is so critical and key. And so if you can own where you're falling short and without beating yourself up, step forward and say, I'm going to do something different. And that looks like taking different actions. That looks like investing your time and money differently. That looks like actually letting go of your ego and showing up differently. Okay. You have to do those things. So that level of honesty is probably the biggest one in this whole list, maybe tied with changing your self-image. Okay. So we'll call that the bonus one, number 11. Okay. And we've put together a download for you on all of these 10 concepts, and the bonus, so number 11, is included in there as well. So if you'd like a copy of this so that you have an easy reference, please go to theunstoppablewoman.com/E291. E is for episode. And yes, this is episode 291. We have done a lot of podcasts. Listen back to all of them. There's some stunning content in there. So many people tell me that they binge listen from the beginning, which I highly recommend. So again, if you want this download as an easy reference so that you can see what the 10 points that I made today were, plus the bonus, go to theunstoppablewoman.com/E291. Okay, catch you in the next episode. Hey, thanks so much for joining us and being part of the Unstoppable Woman movement. We have got a ton of free resources for scaling your business at theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. And you can find that link in the description below. So go ahead and check those out. And we'd also love your help in getting our message out to more and more women. If you'd be willing to share this video with all the unstoppable women in your life, that would be fantastic. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Reviews, likes, and comments are greatly appreciated. We go in and read them all. So thank you for those. And thanks for listening, and be unstoppable.